Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
There's only one thing more contagious than a common cold. And that one thing is completely controlling your corporate culture, your organization's culture. That one thing. And if you listen to this episode of Leading Leaders, you'll know what that one thing is. Stay tuned.
Master the story power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I was recently working with a client who said, I had 13 promotions after reading one particular book. I read that book, I studied that book, I applied that book, and all of those promotions I attribute to that one book. I thought that's a pretty impressive book. And then I realized I've been studying that book for 25 years. Right at about 25 years. And the name of that book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And it's partnered with, or at least my copy is partnered with, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And it's about relationships with you and with other people. And without a doubt, Dale Carnegie, John Maxwell, Robert Schuller, Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, W. Clement Stone, all of them say a very similar thing, and that is, it doesn't matter what's going on around you nearly as much as the attitude you approach it with. Attitude matters more than anything else, and you need to know that attitude is contagious. If you're asking yourself, why is my my team, my company, my family, my friends, this little group of people I hang out with, why is the culture of it so toxic and bitter and disruptive and distracting? What is it about this group of people that we just constantly biting at each other like a cancer or an acid of some sort, just gnawing away at our sensibilities, our strategies, our relationships, our compassion for one another? What is it about us that just doesn't work? Now, I want you to be honest with yourself for a minute and realize that I challenge you to write this down. Think through the people you hang out with. Maybe they're cohorts at work and you don't have a choice. You didn't pick the team, so you're just a part of the team, and you got to deal with the team, whatever the team is doing, good, bad, or otherwise. And maybe they're family. Most of us don't get to pick our family either. You're just kind of born into it, and you're like, oh, the rents, the parental units, the supervisor's in charge of the house, at least until I can make my own money. Can't choose your siblings either. Most of the time, they kind of come with a package deal. But there's something about those kind of little communities, if you will, that you don't have a whole lot of choice, but you also don't have the ability to run away as easily as you do a place where, you pick your friends. Now, if you're on a sports team, an athletic team, a chess team, or a hockey team, sometimes you get to pick the people on your immediate team, your squad, your clique, the ones you hang out with. But for the most part, the center never picks the quarterback. The quarterback never picks the right end. He might throw or favor one or the other, but that guy on the right, the coach picked him. I don't even like him. I don't like those socks he wears. All of these things kind of come to a bubbling head when attitude comes in, because attitude is contagious. How many times is the script played out in the movies where the cheer captain or the football captain or the rugby captain has this way of winning friends and influencing people by the bully pulpit. Well, I'm the superstar. Of course you're my friend. But those of you who are not, and you can chase this through every movie theme, from Transformers to Notebook to Step It Up. Every one of them have this theme. There's always the hero and the anti-hero, the well-known popular, and everybody supports them, loves them, follows them to be popular, even when they don't like them. I don't like the way they treated so-and-so, but they are the popular ones, so I got to go that way. And so you kind of choose your friends that way. You kind of choose, maybe not the team, but you choose which ones of the team you want to spend your time with. And we forget that attitude is contagious. It's the one thing more contagious than a common cold. And it will impact and influence and drive and manipulate your culture like nobody's business. Get one loudmouth, smart aleck, hate-filled, judgmental, racist, sexist on your team. And it will only take a certain amount of time before one of two things happens. The bitterness, the discord, the hatred either begins to permeate the entire group, and the entire group begins to pick on one or two people who don't fit the norm, or that person becomes an extreme outcast. And another attitude forms to counter their attitude. Either way, that contagious attitude is going to impact your culture. Now, let that settle into one little group of people where you got one person who is crazy corrupt. They'll do anything as long as it benefits them. They'll throw anybody under the bus. They'll lie to the boss. Lie to the boss's face when there are 5 people standing around and going, that's not true. And they'll still do it because they feel like they got the power and the influence, and they can control people to do that. These narcissistic behaviors begin to take over. Narcissism is an attitude that is extremely contagious. Don't let that one seep into your business and stay there. Don't let it get into your team or into your family and stay there. Because if you don't deal with that, if you don't call it out, if you don't point it out, it's like a cancer cell. It just keeps feeding itself. One gaslighting, yeah, that's not good in the relationship. A habit of gaslighting, that's a whole nother ballgame. That egotistical, everything is about me, a couple of times that that's expressed, you should probably check that. You should call it out, nip it in the bud. Because if you don't, it becomes a habit. It doesn't stay just between those two people. It infests the entire organization. And all of those people who have the type of personality that could easily become a sociopath or a narcissist, and everything in the world is about them, and they don't care who else gets hurt, all of them will rise up. They'll show up like cockroaches to a party. They will come out of the woodwork. You'll be thinking, but you've been so sweet and so loving and so compassionate and so caring and so empathetic for so long. And what happened? Then some will say, well, I found my voice. Trust me, I know people who've been quiet and suppressed and oppressed all their life who felt like they didn't have a voice, and that liberty for them was life-changing. I've also seen those who come out of the woodwork. They've been a kind of a closet narcissist, a very destructive, backbiting, rumor mill kind of a person all along, but nobody knew it because they were very quiet, very manipulative. Nobody knew it because they did it behind the scenes. They would sow discord without, putting up a flag, so to speak. But now all of a sudden, they see somebody else who's getting more power, getting more influence, getting more opportunity, getting the promotions, getting the pay raise, getting the attention. And they can't stand not having the attention. Now, granted, their personality type says I'd rather sit in the corner and not be noticed. But I'd rather be noticed for the wrong thing than ignored. This is a very contagious attitude. And the only way that you'll begin to see that kind of an attitude is in consistent behavioral patterns. But long before you see the way someone treats others, buying them flowers, taking them out on dates, having these sideline conversations, these behind the back conversations. Hey, let's have coffee. Why would we have coffee? You have a husband, I have a wife. Why would Why would we do that? I just want to pick your brain on a couple of things. No, they don't. They want to pick at your brain like a crow and put some things in there that don't belong there. That's not a good thing. But see, it's an attitude that manifests itself in behavior, but that behavior has another flag. If you're watching this, you don't even have to wait till the behavior starts to be acted out. You'll catch on way sooner. And you'll catch on and recognize this is not just that one person's attitude. It's like it's everywhere. Yes, because attitude is more contagious than the common cold, and it has a direct impact on your company culture. Let me say that again. Attitude is more contagious than a common cold, and it has a direct impact on your organization's culture. Let me say that again. Attitude is more contagious than a common cold, and it has a direct impact on your family's culture. Your family, your church, your community, your neighborhood, your organization, your team will be impacted by dominant attitudes more than anything else. You get one group of people who's like, we don't have to do that. I can take you back to my high school football days. When the linemen, we had to do this, they called it karaoke. I don't know where they came up with that stupid name. It was running sideways while crossing your feet, one in front, one in back, one in back, one in front, one in front, one in back, one in back, and front. Some people call them grapevines. We had to do them 50 yards at a time, running sideways. And then after we'd done that and our feet were confused, they'd make us do the sideways shuffle in the horse riding stance or the breakdown mode, where your knees are bent at a 90 degree like you're doing squats and your arms are out like you're about to tackle somebody, and you got to shuffle sideways as fast as you can without crossing your feet. Wait, we just crossed our feet for 100 yards. We're doing that for the last 20 minutes. I'm about to Technicolor yawn on my own shoes. And now I've got to do it without crossing my feet? What's the difference? Well, the difference is coordination. And you just got to do it. You just got to do it. Well, how come only the linemen have to do it? Because wide receivers don't pass block. So they don't have to run sideways like that. They're running straight down the field as fast as they can. They're not called to run sideways. You have to run sideways. So go run sideways. Well, that's not fair. And we linemen often got a big attitude about that. And of course, that presupposition, linemen can't catch. Don't throw a ball at a lineman. They're linemen. They can't catch. I hate to say it, but if you were a sizable guy and you spent most of your time running sideways, you probably couldn't catch. I'm sure there were a few, but they usually became fullbacks. That little bit of a segregation, that little bit of a them against us, sometimes is all it takes for an attitude to rise up. And then here's what happens. That one spearhead of that little clique, that one loudmouth in that small group, that whether it's the ostracized or the elevated group, that one who loves to just poke other people in their annoyances will start to chatter. See, long before the behavior, long before the disgruntled employee complaints, long before the team starts falling apart and people are quitting or they're taking sides and you see them like they're lined up on the opposite sides of the wall in a football match, long before that happens, there's whispers. Whispers. That's the first indicator of an attitude. Well, what does that whisper sound like? Man, did you see what they did to those guys? Man, I'm glad that's not us. And it's as simple as that. It's as subtle as that. It's as divisive as that. But then it kind of morphs. You're like cotton candy. You can't tell why it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, but it does. Attitude kind of does that. And so one guy on the wide receiver squad is like, man, I'm glad we don't have to run sideways like that. Man, I'd kill my hips. And then two people are like, dude, that sucks to have to run sideways. And then 5 people are like, y'all got to run sideways. We don't have to run sideways. We just do our wind sprints and go home. And many of the linemen would get a really bad attitude. They're like, how come we're still out here running and they're already in the locker room getting a shower? Because the little voice, the little gnawing mice in the corner are creating division with an attitude that says, we're privileged and you're not. Here's the truth of the matter. I don't know if you've ever watched a football game, a soccer game, but those guys run probably 25,000 miles. I mean, they get in their steps every game. They chase that ball from one end to the other, even if they don't have the ball. Doesn't happen in NFL style football. That's not what we do. 10 big guys line up 6 inches from each other and slam into each other as hard as they can. And the maximum distance they run is after the running back breaks away or after there's interception going the other way. And most of those linemen, offensive and defensive, are looking for an oxygen tank after sprinting 100 yards. On the other hand, every time that ball is placed back on the ground and that ball is snapped, those wide receivers, those defensive backs, they'll run 25, 50 yards every snap, every down. And that's what they do in practice. They're running routes, they're getting in 500 yards while we're running into each other and going about 6 feet. And it takes a minute as a lineman to catch on to that. You're like, why are we still running? Coach is going, because there's going to be a fourth quarter one day. Your score is not going to be so bad that you're done at halftime. You're actually going to win into the third quarter. You're going to have to hold on to it. And that only happens if you're still in shape in the fourth quarter and you're not looking for oxygen over there, which means you got to run. You got to get yourself in shape. Round is a shape, but it doesn't work here, right? That attitude, why us and not them? It's just a perception problem. But the minute it becomes verbalized in the form of an attitude, man, that ain't fair. Now it's a cancer. And it's more contagious than a common cold. And one person yells out, that ain't fair. And suddenly 50 people are yelling out, that ain't fair. How come they and we? I don't care if you're talking about pay raises, days off, first one to the donuts, first people in the lunch line, whatever it is. The minute that little divisive comment comes up, that ain't fair. Why them, not us? Why us, not them? That's the seed of a bad attitude that's about to go in your place, in your household, on your team, in your community, in your neighborhood, in your church. What do you think the mob mentality is all about? It's an attitude verbally expressed so that everyone else begins to share it. And it will eat you up like a cancer in a heartbeat. You got to do something about it. What are you going to do about it? Well, how about this? First thing I want you to do, I'm going to give you 3 really easy tips. These are not super complicated tips. Number 1, I want you to make a note. Just make a list of all of the expressions and phrases that you hear on your team, in your group, in your clique. Maybe these are the friends you chose, but they say things all the time like, man, we got to get some money. Man, we all broke. Man, those rich fat cats, these phrases that are constantly repeated within your circle, group, team, family, household, whatever it is. Just listen for those phrases. Begin to make a list. Man, I heard somebody say that the other day. Now I'm hearing it again. Now I'm hearing it for like the 4th time in the last 10 days. Now it seems like I hear it every day. You should pay attention to that phrase. Perhaps even ask yourself, what does it mean? Where does it come from? What do you mean by that? Is that just something funny you say, or is that really something you believe? Because if it's something you believe, I need to know what's behind it. And more than that, I need to know what's going to happen if you keep saying it. And by that, I mean, will you eventually act out what you feel right now? Remember, an attitude is what you think about how you feel and how you feel about what you think. And if that thought's coming to mind and it's causing you to get a little frustrated, a little angry, a little, that ain't fair, that ain't us. If that's coming out in your language, it's already in your thoughts, it's already in your emotions, and it's only seconds perhaps away before it's in your action. And I'm going to get revenge on him for XYZ. They got that job promotion. I'm sabotaging them. No, it's not going to happen on my watch. No way you're going to succeed in that business, and I will see to it. Whatever that means. But see, the minute it's expressed, it's already in the thoughts, it's already in the feelings. Now it's only seconds away from becoming an action. And those actions repeated over and over becomes a behavior. And if you think attitude is contagious, it is. I already told you that. Behavior that becomes repetitive becomes a habit, not only in the person who started with that attitude, but all of this sequence becomes contagious. And you see people start walking a certain way, showing up on time or not on time a certain way, acting a certain way around certain employees, around certain groups, around certain cliques. Go spend a day around a prison and watch how the different factions within the prison treat each other and treat others not like them. That's that attitude taken to the highest degree. And that attitude, that same one that landed them in prison, is still keeping them there. But that same attitude's got other people following in the wake of it going, well, that's where he went because, we're just alike. Are you? Is that a choice? Do you get to decide how you feel? Been watching a little TV series and there's a confrontation where a guy says, man, you're just like your father. He's like, how can I be like my father? He's a criminal, I'm a cop. He said it's just the same behavior and the same attitude with a different group of affiliation, a different gang. What if that's true in your life? What if that attitude that permeates your behavior and the way you treat people, something you got from somebody else? So now that you've found those phrases, now that you've heard people say things and you're like, I keep hearing that over and over. I want you to make note of the ones that are not just the same person repeating that same phrase over and over because it's cool or it's colloquial or it's cute, but it's now embedded itself in the regular conversation. And I heard Bob say that on Monday, and I heard Susie say it on Tuesday, and I heard Tim say it on Thursday, and I'm thinking, what do they know that I don't know? Well, that thought is permeating your organization. Man, we're all going to get laid off. Man, we're all getting a raise. I heard they're building another one just like this 6 miles down the road. We're going to have, all of our friends are going to get a job too. See, those little phrases, they're telling you something. These are the pre-tremors of the earthquake, the before shocks, and sometimes the aftershocks. But when you're hearing those phrases repeated by one person, then you got to ask yourself, as other people start repeating them, which one's the horse and which one's the cart? Which one led the others in that way of thinking? Did somebody plant that seed and then abandon it so somebody else would raise it up? Or is that a common thought among all of them? And if it is a common thought, where'd it come from? And what's the behavior that's going to follow it? Because attitude, action, behavior. It's a formulaic sequence. It happens every time. You think and you feel, and then you do, and then you repeat, and it becomes a habit. Number 3, once you've made a list of all of these common phrases that you're hearing, not just the repeated ones by a people or two, but the ones the entire group is repeating over and over again, now you know you've got a cancerous attitude, good or bad. It's spreading. It's contagious. Once you start to make a list of that phrase, begin to ask yourself, I hear this phrase regularly. I also hear this phrase regularly. I also hear this phrase regularly. What does that tell me? If you're not sure what that tells you, you could be in trouble. You could have a cancer eating up your organization from the inside, like a colon cancer or a bone cancer or a lung cancer. You can't see it, but it's eating you up from the inside, and it's going to lead to a tragic, painful end of your organization. The next thing you got to do, now that you've identified that there are phrases that are being repeated, and those phrases have spread from the person that first started saying that over and over again, and now everybody's saying that over and over and over again, and it seems to go not just from that person to this group, but now the group seems to have some collaborative phrases. They say things like this and this and this. Good enough for government work. Man, when I get that raise, then I'll do that work you're asking me to. That is not in my job description. Now, what if one group of people said all 3 of those things every day? That's going to tell you something. That's going to tell you something about your organization. It's going to tell you something about the attitude that drives your organization. It's going to tell you a lot about your internal culture. I don't have to do that. That's not in my job description. You don't pay me enough to do that. And I'm just hanging on until I get my retirement check. I got X number of days till I retire. I'm going to keep my nose clean until I get my retirement. Once I get my pension, man, I'm out. There's some things you need to know about that. There's a There's a tool that we created. In fact, if you go to storypoweracademy.com and you look for the attitude hack, when you get there, you can find, and I'll send it to you if you just send me a DM. And just send me a DM right now, right to my Facebook, LinkedIn page, whatever you want. Just send me a DM and go, I want that attitude hack checklist. And I will send you, free of charge, a PDF that is the attitude hack checklist. And if you go through this checklist, what you're going to find is there are some groupings of phrases that when you hear them, you're like, no way. And I've been hearing those too. I didn't know that was coming too. Yeah, if you're hearing these two, you're probably going to hear number 3. And when you get to number 5, that attitude of complacency has fully set in. They don't care. You hear things like, what are you going to do? Fire me? They're either so arrogant they don't believe they could be fired, or they don't care. And at that point, your organization's in trouble. Because if there's one person that's already taken on that attitude, it's more contagious than a common cold. Everybody's going to have it soon, or at least the people they have the most influence over. And if 5 people in your team, just think about it, if 5 people in your team, in your family, your community, your neighborhood, your church, your place of business, if 5 people came to work on Monday and went, look, what are you going to do? Fire me? I'm leaving at noon. Deal with it. What are you going to do? Close the doors? Lock the doors? We went out for dinner the other night to a little fast food place. While we're standing there in line at the register, the people behind, all of the employees behind the counter are murmuring about, we don't have enough staff to keep we're going to have to close the lobby because we can't keep up with the drive-through orders because we don't have anybody to run the register. And someone who walked in the door didn't look to me like they worked there, but they're like, we got a shirt back here. If you want to come clock in, you can clock in. I know you're not on the schedule, but if you want the money, we'll put you to work. How do you get to that place? Just enough people with just a bad enough attitude to either get sent home or simply not show up for work. What would you do if 5 people walked out? The local restaurant had that happen too. 10 people, I think it was, walked out on one day. Their intent was to shut the place down. And they did. Kitchen staff, serving staff, walked out the door. The only one left was a bartender and the owner. What do you do with that? If that attitude gets in your place of business, if that attitude gets in your team, it's more contagious than a common cold. It will eat you up from the inside. You're going to have to start listening for those phrases. When you start hearing them over and over, make note. When you hear them from more than one person, really make note. And when they become next to another phrase that now everybody's saying, you better take some action. And the first action is to figure out what attitude that is, because if you don't identify it and begin to counter it with some phrases of your own, it's going to get you. Attitude hack. You can find it on storypoweracademy.com. I suggest you get in there. You can do the self-study course, or you can pay us to come in and do a half-day training for your entire team. We'll identify some of those attitudes. And when you do that checklist, you're going to go, I didn't realize that's what that was leading to, but I'm glad to know we could have headed off at the pass. That's what we're here for. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, or Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with Story Power. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
This 6 weeks guided program is specifically designed for those people who say, I know I need to tell stories. I need to tell better stories because the ones I have are boring or they're not getting across. Or as John Maxwell says, everyone communicates and, well, few connect. Now, as a participant in this course, what I would really love to know from you, put it in the discussion on the course if you're already registered online. Send me a chat, send me a DM, send me a text, send me an email. I'd really love to know what you hope to get out of this course. Now, I can tell you what we're going to discuss, and I can tell you what I plan to teach and train you on, and I can tell you even what we plan to discuss each week on the calls for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to go over all of that for you in just a moment. I can also tell you that my clients who get the greatest success are the ones who apply the Story Power process to their business development to increase their impact, their influence, and their income. Now, the Story Power process includes story mining, story selection, story qualification, story crafting, connecting with your audience, and leading the narrative. And if you leave any one of those parts out, you're going to find that, well, you're just not as effective as you want to be. You're not going to grow your business to the same level. You're not going to lead with impact and influence like you hope to. I can also tell you that the people who apply these things, well, they're not failing in their business. The reason a lot of people fail in their business is they continue to fail to connect the solution they offer with the problem that their clients have. The pain and the solution never come together. And a lot of that failure is because they're not clearly articulating how their solution solves someone else's problem. It comes down to a question something like this: who do you help and how? Yes, that's one of the first things we're going to discuss over the next 6 weeks of Boost Your Business with Story Power.
Master the Story Power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.